Hi, and welcome to Not Medical Advice, medical stories that showcase effective medical options that you haven't heard of or never seriously considered. So, this video and podcast is not intended to be used as medical advice, and there is no claim that anything I mention can be used to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or injury. You are responsible for what happens if you use information in this show to treat any medical condition, and I am not responsible for anything that you choose to do. So just keep this in mind. If you have a medical condition, you can find an effective professional to help you. I wanted to make an off the cuff show just to say I'm here at nighttime after practicing, changed out of my shirt and into my comfy clothes. And I was thinking about the show I just did with Melissa and the show that I'm about to do on School Sucks podcast. I'm looking forward to that one. There are a lot of questions that people are not asking right now at this date. Right now it's the 27th of April, 2020. And the questions that are not being asked are what I'm going to bring up today. I think it's extremely important for people to ask these questions. I think it's more important just for me to mention the questions and say those questions out loud than it is for people to basically have answers to these questions. I think I just want more people looking up the answers to these questions. That's all I really want. I want people to look up the answers to these questions. And the reason I want that is because it would dispel the fear that's going on. There's so much fear. You know, you don't have to just sit there and be afraid. It would also dispel the appeal to authority, that type of thing that I like to harp on about. I always am harping on about logical fallacies, the informal logical fallacies, and the problems with that. It's just so problematic when people just do an appeal to an authority. I asked someone around that first one, for example, my first question, do you know what Koch's postulates are? Koch apostrophe S postulates are? And if you don't know what Koch's postulates are, then you can look it up. I mean, certainly I can tell you that it's about finding the pathogenesis of any microorganism. You know, that in other words, that you find that there is a reason to do that. There's a reason for looking up and finding, is a pathogen pathogenic? You know, is it an organism that's causing a pathogenic problem? And it works like that, where the pathogen must be found in a diseased organism, a diseased creature, maybe a human, for example. You need to be able to find that and isolate it, purify it even, remove all the other material and just have the virus, right? Just in this case, just the novel virus, and now culture it. Do you need to culture this virus with tissues from the original host? Well, fine, then go ahead and culture it with original tissues from the host. I'm sure that people have extra tissues that could be growing more virus. If that's true, it's how they grow. By the way, no virus has ever passed Koch's postulate, Koch apostrophe S postulate. No virus has ever passed Koch's postulate. There's a Spencer's postulate that was done in the 1930s that has just a few more steps to it. But the first step is you need to find the pathogen in the host, remove it and purify it. And now you need to take that pathogen that you've basically grown on new medium, grow some new ones of it, basically. Like in this case on a tissue sample, I guess. By the way, viruses are not easy to culture. Apparently, no one has yet. I think that there's good reason for that, but we'll get to that later. You need to take this pathogen and put it into a new organism. And that organism needs to show the signs of the same symptoms that the original infected host was showing. And now you need to find and isolate that same pathogen, that microorganism, out of this host that was just inoculated and just came down with the same symptoms. And now you compare the two, the ones that were taken out of the first host and the ones that were taken out of the second host. And are they actually matching? And now you have genetic matching, so you could do that if you had that. If you have all this, you know, I would say you have proven pathogenesis if you do that. If you don't, you have not. So that's step one. That's the gold standard. Step one is prove it. Prove it, you know? And this has not been done with any viral condition ever. And that's interesting. So there's a lot of evidence that's, saying, oh, well, here's this paper showing this and that kind of thing with markers and these genetic markers, RNA material that is suspicious, that is used and assumed to be the presence of a virus. Sorry, that don't cut it. No, it needs to pass a postulate, some type of pathogenic postulate. Pick your fucking postulate. There, I'm going to use the F word. Just pick it. Do whatever postulate's going to work, but it has to prove that. And I'm saying this, has a virus passed Koch's postulate? Send it to me. Go ahead, leave it in the comments on this video. Go ahead and send it to me. But I'm not here just like I am at the end of my day, and I'm going to use naughty words, and I'm a little tired, but I'm also I'm tired of lazy thinking. I'm especially tired of lazy thinking, boss. I'm just really tired of that. That's lame and lazy thinking. So that's the first step. The second question: can you reference the original papers where the new coronavirus was isolated and purified according to virology's own scientific gold standards? Can you? I'd love to find them, I have a claim right here that I'm looking at that you're not going to find them. And having spent a little time at the work of Andy Kaufman, who's a medical doctor, I would concur with him that I'm just not finding viral pathogenesis as in any way being demonstrated. But more importantly, how about just isolation and purification? Like, where do I find this one? When I ask people for this one, they'll often even make the claim, just like Koch's postulate, as if it's unnecessary. Like, that's not necessary to have an isolation and purification. And they also might not know the difference. There is a technical difference, but I'm not even going to get into that. I would go with either of them. I just want one. I want them isolated. No other genetic material, no other crap, just the virus, please. Just the virus. Show it to me, and show me the papers that have shown over and over again that they got this one right. That's pretty important. How about this one? Are you aware or familiar with the stunning lack of hard scientific evidence throughout the history of most alleged viruses? And that's going back to viral pathogenesis problems. None of them passing Koch's postulate or Spencer's postulate from the 1930s. Pick your postulate. It's not passing anything. They're always skipping steps, especially the one where you are culturing some microorganism, in this case a virus, and you're finding them to be the actual cause in both the host, obviously, because the host is sick, and then, the isolating, putting into a new host, and now the new host gets sick in exactly the same way. Kind of like in movies and TV shows nowadays. There's so much of that going on. It's really, I find it disturbing, honestly. I find it disturbing that there could be such an assumption that that's the way it works. You'll have people, I watched this show, what was it called? Blind Spot, I think. And the characters were all investigating in the CDC in Washington, D.C., their main building. And they have some type of level 4 secret lockdown of all their pathogens and stuff. And the guy had a rip in his containment suit, his hazmat suit. And you see him like instantly coughing blood and dying right then and there. I'm strongly suspecting that can't happen, and that doesn't happen. I think it would take a very special pathogen to do that. And I haven't seen evidence of this pathogen. I have been in medicine for 22 years being paid to help people. And I started thinking, I'm going to help people with infectious disease. And I found out infectious disease is about the easiest thing that I get to work on. I often have to work on the metabolic problems that go along with infectious disease, adrenal fatigue, metabolic insufficiencies caused by deficiencies in a person's nutrients that they need. So now I have to boost up their nutrients. Problems caused by toxicities. I have to work on that next. I have to work on removing some toxicity problems. Basically, if I can do those quickly, I move on to a final, usually herbal formula or single herbal component to deal with the pathogen problem. If the pathogen happens to be bacterial or viral or fungal or parasite. And those are the ones that I would work on right there. I would work on those because that's how I was taught. I was taught with some of the skills of applied and clinical kinesiology, and applied that, of course, to the acupuncture knowledge that I was given also. And, I got really good results when it came to infectious disease because it was the easiest thing to work on. The hardest thing I ever work on, the most challenging thing, has and always probably will be neurological conditions that demonstrate heavy amounts of potential neurotoxins such as heavy metals and certain chemicals. That's the hardest condition for me to treat, because the neurological system is so complicated. And once the condition has gone on for on and on and on for like years, decades, everything's got a pattern that's all set, like it's a set pattern. That's hard. Some other chronic conditions are also hard for me to treat. Chronic injuries are also hard, but I get headway with injuries, better and better. I'm getting better and better at getting results with injuries. It's not actually that hard. Numbness and neuropathy, all types of, neurological conditions like that, I tend to work on and get good results with. I just need to just work it, and I get the job done. But infectious disease has got to be the easiest thing. And my opinion is it's very possible that pathogens don't pass Koch's postulate at all. But I'm open to the idea. For example, I'm open-minded that I can get sent papers, or I'm gonna keep researching and try to find the papers that demonstrate 100% here is a bacteria pathogen being shown to pass all of Koch's postulate, or a fungal pathogen passing all of Koch's postulate, all of that. Because there have been demonstrated, I think, tests in the reverse where even voluntary human to human transmission, humans came in to be around sick people, to accept, close contact with these sick people and never getting sick too often. So what is up with that? That's an issue. I'm open-minded. I think the biggest thing I'm asking for people to consider with these questions is, could you please step away from needing to be certain? Could you please put it aside that you need to be certain on your conclusions? You do not. Stop being certain. It's annoying and it hurts you and others. It makes minor to major tragedies. Stop it. I'm not certain. You can also embrace uncertainty and agnosticism. Step into it. It feels much better that way. And yeah, if I have a bit of a chip on my shoulder about this one, it's because in this instance, suffering fools and all of the things that they do and say, and I'm going to get to that at the end of the video, is causing major tragedies now. It's the lockdown, it's the wearing masks while people are going into stores or driving a car, when masks, as far as I'm concerned, only need to be used when you're performing surgery so you don't spit on wounds and things like that. That's what a mask is for. That's it. It's certainly not small enough to prevent, viruses from coming in. And it absolutely is, just going to be there to stop it from going out with spit. But, again, the pathogenesis problem, this is not a problem right now. So it's very important just to have an open mind, and please do that. Do you understand how virus witch hunts give a single cause excuse for the medical community to eliminate all other toxicity investigations? That's what I was mentioning before, the metabolic problem. The better I get at solving the metabolic problem with a person, meaning like the deficiencies and toxicities, the two-handed approach, if they're deficient in things, I need to find those things they're deficient in and boost it up. If they're toxic, there's certain toxins that shouldn't be there. Their body is producing toxins called endotoxins, or exotoxins from outside are coming in. Those toxins need to be lowered down. Subtraction, addition, toxins down, nutrients up, solving the metabolic problem. And in this instance, the single cause excuse, this has happened for a long time ago. They tried to blame scurvy on a virus. They tried to blame beriberi on a virus. Over pellagra, all of these many conditions that were based upon either deficiencies of certain vital nutrients, or in the case of polio, I would call that toxins, lead arsenic poisoning, for example. There's so many examples of poisoning, and then just completely renaming the entire pathogen. I'm still unaware exactly of the pathogenesis of how rabies works, actually, because the standard story is one thing, but now I'm opening up to a bigger story, which is basically, here's another question. What is the terrain theory and what is the germ theory? What is the terrain theory of disease and germ theory of disease? You can look that up. Um, by the way, Wikipedia has an awful track record of looking at holistic healthcare, my profession, and many other people's professions that are paid for by insurance companies that, to the tunes of billions of dollars, are obviously supporting acupuncture, chiropractic, naturopathic medicine, all types of healthcare that is what I would call considerably more comprehensive and holistic, wide spectrum. There's a lot of companies, a lot of insurance companies are pumping out definitely many hundreds of millions of dollars to Americans, and I would say people across the world, to help fund these therapies that I do and others do. I've been paid by this as well. It's they get paid because they get results. Results count. How the results are happening is extremely debatable, especially in the realm of acupuncture, or for that matter, even chiropractic. But the standard thing is, guess what? They don't care. Insurance companies care about the bottom line. It saves them money, so they pay for it. Reluctantly, not nearly as much as I would want them to, but they pay. So basically, the single cause problem, that's like, we got to find the cause, and then we got to find the cure. It's like one thing causing one thing, and you treat it with one thing. How many times I treat everyone with one medicine? It's rare. I mean, every once in a while I could find a supplement that works for many people. And I love to do that because, well, for one thing, it's cost effective for me. But I mean, I like to see what happens with a good result with many people. I'm thinking of adrenal supplements, basically, because most people are adrenal fatigued because they drink coffee and take in caffeine and sugar, which just then pushes the cortisol levels like that. I think it's really important to understand that the single cause hobgoblin, which is focused upon by many, is a big problem. So I want to make mention to that. Are you familiar with how both antibody and PCR tests are utterly useless for virus diagnoses, particularly in producing accurate data? So what I want people to ask is, what is an antibody test composed of? What does it actually look for? What is the PCR test, the reverse transcription polymerase chain reaction test invented by Kary Mullis in the 1980s, which he won the Nobel Prize for in chemistry? What is that test actually doing? What did Kary Mullis, who invented the test, say about his test being used for viral detection? A spoiler alert, he said it would be horrible, that it won't work. So, but no, don't trust Daryl. Don't trust Daryl Becker. Look it up. Look it up, look up. If you're not asking the question, what is a PCR test and who invented it? And what did the inventor of the PCR test say about his own test? My question would be, well, why aren't you looking that up? Why aren't you looking that up right now? Either trust me completely if that's how you like to do it. Like, I mean, I trust my mechanic. He fixes my car and he says, Daryl, you need this part. And I say, I'm going to go get this part, but that's because the stakes are lower. In this case, the stakes are pretty high for healthcare. Yeah. If he messes up, well, now my car's messed up, but I'm going to learn pretty quickly and I'm going to have to choose what I'm going to do next. He doesn't want my car to be messed up. He's got a great track record of every time I go there, I get it fixed. It's good. So I can trust that. But the appeal to authority, appeal to my mechanic, is not a safe way to go when it comes to making humongous, wide-sweeping economic public policy and big shifts like that. As Yuri Bezmenov would say, there are a lot of useful idiots and a lot of highly demoralized people out there. that took in some pretty toxic messages, is my opinion. Messages that what they own is safety provided by others, that they literally own the effort of myself and others to give them safety, that they deserve other people to shift their actions to make them better. A complete reversal of understanding who owns what, you know. Um, no one owes you anything would be a basis that I start with. It's a lack of any deserve oriented thinking at all. And that's how I would prefer to approach things. If you're not there in a lack of deserve oriented thinking, I invite you to join me. Um, just join me in the idea that you deserve nothing, but you desire all kinds of things. And now my ask is simply to just desire those things and take the appropriate actions to get what you want, which might include asking others to provide it. Asking, not demanding. Asking. Again, no one owes you a thing, so you can ask for things. That's the relationship that I would prefer, a voluntary and consensual based relationships with all people. And that's how I prefer to interact. Anyone who goes into the realm of coercive relationships, well, now they're on my list of I don't want to deal with you if at all possible. So, do you know how faulty data can be used to hyperinflate an epidemic to illusory proportions? Um, Lies, Damn Lies, and Statistics. There's a book that you can buy. That's a way that spin was used to take statistics and just pump them things up. Like, I think I even saved a screenshot recently of like the predictions of how many people would be dead by each date, and that kept getting changed and kept getting changed and kept getting downgraded over and over again. I'm still trying to figure out what the long game of this whole scenario potentially could be. I have no idea. I'm not behind the scenes in the boardrooms. All I could say is that I hope that this was the ultimate, because it made trillions of dollars for those investors so far. If you don't understand how much money has been made through the process of this whole coronavirus lockdown across the world, I think that I could just invite you to look at the total assets before and after of your most popular billionaires, such as Bill Gates, such as Elon Musk. Just name your billionaire and look up the winnings of all the billionaires, how much money they've made over the last several months. Just look it up. And those are the popular ones, but you could look up other amounts of monies that have been made too. I'm just saying that follow the money is a very good method to understand the situation. But yes, faulty data, such as faulty PCR tests, which do not in any way show or demonstrate an infection or any type of pathogenic like virus to be present in a person. The PCR test amplifies genetic material. That ain't good. That just amplifies what's already there. That's what it's designed to do. That's why Kary Mullis made it. He wanted a way to amplify genetic material, and he made a test that does that. But that's not a good way to find out if a virus is inside of a person, much less if it's a pathogenic kind. It doesn't do that. And I would say the antibody tests are just as faulty. So that's a big problem. Here's some terms to look up. Do you know what the microbiome is, the virome, and the exosome are? I'm just going to leave it right there. These are questions to know and look up. You just go and look them up. I'll cover that one in another show. I don't want to right now. I've covered enough things right now. I just think that these are great terms to look up and understand. Exosomes, especially. Exosomes were not discovered until relatively recently. I believe late 80s. I believe, I have to look that one up, but not before that. They are electron microscope only. They are small. They are the same size pretty much as the alleged coronavirus, which so far I haven't seen the original paper to find where it was isolated and purified according to scientific gold standards. So, do you know how diseases are used to sell drugs and vaccines to you? I do, because I was sold on them. I was sold as a child that I have allergies, so therefore I need to take an allergy drug, an antihistamine. I was sold that that was the way to solve it. Unlike, unfortunately, if I had just simply changed the diet and exercise and a few other healthy things could have done, it would have been really easy. I would have no allergies at all. And I would have not had an allergy to cats and dogs like I did. I started developing cats and dog allergies when I was 10 years old. Um, at the risk of annoying Tina, I will say, you know, yeah, I have a cat now. And yeah, ah, she's not allergic. I'm not allergic to her, and she's not a problem. There's many reasons for that. Because the food was a big deal, I wasn't allergic to cats and dogs. I was suffering from deficient nutrients coming in and toxic foods coming in. I was suffering. I had no idea I was suffering from a whole bunch of different, nasty crap coming in that needed to stop. And I didn't learn how to do that until I was basically in my 20s. I didn't stop being allergic to cats and dogs until I was in around 28 or so. I did some radical diet change then. Um, but there are many reasons for this. Basically, there's many different diseases. Like they keep lowering what's the proper cholesterol level. The cholesterol levels used to be much higher. They keep lowering the blood cholesterol levels so that they could sell more cholesterol removing drugs, which are completely unnecessary. Cholesterols are there to help solve the problem of inflammation in the blood vessels, and that's really incredibly important. But of course, if you have too much of that, and if it was any of that was to produce a stroke, that's where you need to have some blood thinners to thin things out. That basically the arterial hardening and other damage to the arteries on the inside, that's inflammation caused, again, largely by inappropriate foods coming in or other toxins. That's the part to solve. But they got people to be ignorant just to think that the cholesterol is the problem, which, would occlude an artery and block it. And that would, of course, be a humongous problem. Obviously, once that happens, yes, removing some of the cholesterol with a drug would be great. Here's the problem with cholesterol removing drugs. They don't just remove the cholesterol from the arteries. They remove the cholesterols from everywhere. They go full everywhere, systemic, as it's called. They go everywhere. What else is made out of cholesterol? Your brain is made out of cholesterol. So what happens when you remove cholesterols, which is, largely components of the brain? Well, you end up with a population of people who have dementia and Alzheimer's, pretty much. There's a humongous population who have taken large amounts of cholesterol removing drugs, and now they're old and they have dementia or Alzheimer's. Go figure, correlation is not causation, but man, is that ever compelling. Until what I would say, all these questions merits further research. Everything I said, if it did not inspire curiosity on your part, I'm sorry, but this show is absolutely not for you. This show is for people who have curiosity. If you don't have curiosity, if you just want to believe what you believe because that makes you feel better, yeah, you're definitely in the wrong place, because I want to take that splinter in your mind and I want to poke it all the way through you so you have a nice big gaping hole called uncertainty. And now get comfortable with that uncertainty, because seriously, it's your area of growth. You can get better by just being uncertain. You don't have to stay like this. Certainty is where, and belief, that is where knowledge and science dies. Science moves forward by having a theory and disproving it. Like, I want to disprove these theories. I want to say, I would love to find out that I'm wrong. That would be cool. And there's a virus that's been proven as pathogenic. Show me the evidence. There's Koch's postulate being fully demonstrated. Show me the evidence. I'd love to find that. There is a vaccine that's not only safe, but effective. Show me the evidence. By the way, I haven't seen evidence for those claims yet, but every several years I try to audit these claims and look and see if there's any new evidence that popped up, any new studies, any new things like that. Because I'm agnostic, because I don't fully believe or disbelieve. I put the belief thing into the realm of the religious. That's not me. I'm not religious. I don't like that kind of kinky tying me up, binding me back. I think that was one definition of religious, its roots, relegare. That would be one way of like tracing back that word root into the relegare, to bind up, to tie back. That's pretty kinky stuff. I don't want to be tied up or bound back. I like to be free flowing and moving. I like to think, I like to ask questions. So those are the important questions that I wanted to raise. If you don't ask questions, then you're just going to be assuming you have the right answers, like me assuming that the auto parts that I've got to put into my car are going to work. I can't assume that. I don't, I just want to just find out results. The only reason I'm trusting this one mechanic is because he's given me stellar results. So whoever you're trusting out there for your healthcare, I'm hoping that they give you stellar results, because if they don't, it's time to just try other people in addition to them, or change over and just leave them if they're really messing you up. Because if they have MD behind their name and they're just following in the recipe book, it's possible that they could be causing damage or worse to you and those you care about, because around 300,000 people die per year based on medical damage that was the doctor following the protocol. That's not malpractice. Look up Death by Medicine, author Gary Null. Look it up. It's verified. This is peer reviewed over and over again. This is one of the top big death methods in the United States, and I would probably posit for like many countries right now. It's very important to understand that. So on the up note, basically, this stuff is really easy. It's very, very easy just to go ahead and ask questions. It's very, very hard if you don't ask questions. It's very easy to use a search engine. You can look all of this stuff up. Look up what Koch's postulates are. Koch''S, postulates. It's not hard. It has a Wikipedia page, which is actually accurate. Why viruses don't need to pass this test, I don't know. According to Wikipedia, it's obviously they can just blank out, as Ayn Rand would call it. Don't need to answer that. I will pretend I didn't even hear the question. I'm gonna leave it there. And yeah, this is not medical advice, and I am wishing you extremely robust health.